Good evening. We're going to reconvene out of closed session. I'm going to ask our attorney to report, please.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the council and audience. The City Council met in closed session as previously announced on that one item on the agenda, conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation.
Got to push the button.
Conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation under the heading initiation of litigation. The City Council heard an update to the threat of the litigation, to the initiation of litigation matter, and after discussion by motion of Council Member George, seconded by Council Member Elrod, carried 5-0. The City Council unanimously directed to retain the law firm of Robbins Bourget LLP to pursue legal action for cost recovery and damages against responsible parties for the presence of 123 TCP contaminants in groundwater. That concludes the report out of closed session, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Fred. If you'd all stand, please. Mayor Pro Tem Howie is going to lead us in the flag salute.
Please join us in saluting our great flag. Ready? I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Okay, we have one ceremonial this evening, and that is our 2017 Chino Recycling All-Stars. I'd like to call up Glenda Chavez, our Public Sector Manager from Waste Management. Glenda? And she's going to be introducing the recipients. Okay, I need you to come up here so that they can be on. Jack, can you help with the packages?
Thank you, Mayor. Every year, Waste Management and the City of Chino partner to recognize one business and 2 residential customers for their recycling efforts. What makes this recognition extremely special to us is because these individuals are actually handpicked by our recycling drivers who service them on a weekly basis. We identify our recipients by the quality of their recyclables. They're doing a good job in disposing them, flattening the cardboard boxes, etc., the frequency, and the volume. And today, I actually have 2 recipients here. One of them is not able to attend, and that's the Montes family. So we will be giving them their goodies and their certificates later on. It is with great pleasure that I'd like to recognize the Tyner family as our 2017 Recycling All-Stars. I have Lulu Tyner here with her 2 grandchildren. Could you please come up? I would like to thank you for your commitment to recycling. It is because of families like you that we here in Chino consider ourselves a green city, so thank you so much.
Lulu, I'd also like to present you with a certificate of congratulations from the City of Chino. Would you introduce your grandchildren?
This is my youngest one, Shane. and he absolutely adores the recycling driver. And this is my oldest grandson, Jacob.
And how old are they?
He's 11 and he's 3.
Adorable. Well, thank you, boys, for joining us tonight. This one? Oh, there's a special little truck. Who gets the little truck? Do you get the trash truck? Oh, boy.
So much. Thank you.
And our commercial business recipient for 2017 is Kinko Logistics Services. And we have 2 representatives from their company here to receive their certificates and their goodie bag. So if you could please come up.
I'm Angie Lynch. I am the manager of Kenco here in Chino.
Julio Lopez, Operations Supervisor.
We do logistics for Stryker Medical, so all the furniture and beds and in the hospitals, we transport that for Stryker. Yeah, yeah.
We'd also like to present you with a certificate.
All right, thank you very much.
They get 2 trash cans. Thank you.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is public communication. And this evening, oh gosh, gotta find my place. I'd like to call up Mr. Dennis Hostetler from Calvary Chapel, Chino Hills. He's gonna lead us in prayer. I invite any of you who would like to join us to please stand.
Thank you, Mayor and members of the council. It's a privilege to be here and to honor this custom that goes back to the founding of our nation. And I bring you greetings from Calvary Chapel, Chino Hills, one of the churches within our community. Would you all please bow your heads and close your eyes as we pray? Almighty God, maker of heaven and earth, first, dear Lord, we do want to thank you on behalf of all who are gathered here today. Thank you for your abundant blessings, for granting wisdom, favor, and strength we need to fulfill our duties and our responsibilities among our neighbors within the community. And may we all love our neighbor as ourselves. Thank you for the ability to be involved in useful work and for the honor of bearing appropriate responsibilities. Thanks also for the First Amendment blessing of liberty to worship you according to the dictates of our conscience. Again, God, we thank you for your loving nature, for your infinite, wise, and gracious ways. In the scriptures, they tell us you have said that citizens ought to obey the governing authorities, that you have established these very authorities to promote peace, the rule of law, and justice. Therefore, we pray for our mayor, we pray for the various levels of our city officials, and specifically this assembled council. We are asking that you would grant them all wisdom to govern in the midst of changing times and conflicting interests, a sense of the general welfare and the true needs of our city, and Lord, a keen thirst for justice and rightness, and confidence to do what is good and fitting, and the ability to work together in unity as neighbors, even in the midst of honest disagreements at times. And may all who work here, may all who dwell in this city, may you grant us all personal peace in our lives and purpose in the various tasks we do. We pray for the agenda set before the council today. Please give an assurance that what we would do would please you and benefit those who live and work in our beloved city of Chino. And we pray all these things in the name of the Lord Jesus Christ. Amen.
Okay, this is the time, we have a tradition here where if there are students in the audience, we ask them to come up, give us your name, school that you attend, your teacher in the class. And it looks like we have some students in the audience, even though this week is Thanksgiving vacation. So, any students who are here for a class assignment, would you like to come up and give your name? See, and these kids are on vacation and they even came. Here, come to the lectern, right there.
My name is Journey Baca. I'm a student at Don Lugo High School, and I'm from Mr. Pope's class.
And the class is?
Government.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Ricardo Cavetto. I also attend Don Lugo High School, and my teacher is Mr. Pope, and also for government.
Okay, thank you.
My name is Corey Bethley. I attend Don Lugo High School, and my teacher is Mr. Beloso, and I'm here for econ.
My name
I
is
think so.
Garcia. I go to Don Lugo High School for Mr. Beloso, economics.
My name is Giovanni Hernandez. I attend Cal Poly Pomona. My professor's name is Chris Stoden, and it's for political science class. And I would also like to congratulate Dr. Paul A. Rodriguez of becoming council member.
Okay, thank you for being here.
My name is Jose Ramirez. I'm here from Don Lugo for economy from Mr. Beloso's class.
Thank you.
My name is Diego Bro. I attend Don Lugo High School, and I'm here for economics for teacher Mr. Beloso.
Thank you.
My name is Devin Ortiz. I'm from Don Lugo High School for Mr. Pope's class, U.S. Government.
Okay, thank you all for being here this evening. That's pretty impressive. They're on vacation and they came. And Mr. George has something that he would like to announce.
The Golden Bell Award for one of the design review courses that you have. So congratulations to Don Lugo High School.
Okay, is there anyone in the audience that would like to address the council on an item that is not on the agenda? Okay, seeing none, then we will move on to the consent calendar. Are there any items that council members wish to have pulled? Okay, and I'd entertain a motion. There's a motion from Mayor Pro Tem Howie, second from Councilman George. Mr. Rodriguez?
Okay, excuse me.
And the item passes 5-0. Okay, next on the agenda is under public hearing, item number 11, appeal regarding Chino Pipeline Neighborhood Commercial Center. Our staff report this evening will be provided by Mr. Warren Morleone, but I would like to open the public hearing first. So Warren, would you like to give the staff report, please?
Yes, ma'am. Good evening, Madam Mayor and members of the City Council. This next item before you is a request by the applicant to overturn the Planning Commission's denial of a small commercial project located at the northwest corner of Chino and Pipeline Avenue. The area surrounding, do you have the PowerPoint that I can get from you? It's better if I have the graphic for you, for the audience too. There we go. The area surrounding the project site is residential on the west side and the north side, existing single-family residential, and that is in the county area within the city's sphere of influence. On the other side, the east side of the street is existing single-family and the adult daycare facility there at the corner of Chino and Pipeline Avenue. That, I'm glad to say, is now in the city of Chino.
It's
So that is
actually
part-
child care, not adult care.
Did I say adult?
Yeah.
Sorry. childcare. And then Don Lugo High School to the south. This is a view of Pipeline Avenue looking southbound along the project frontage. Another picture on Chino Avenue looking northwest. Chino Avenue also looking northeast. And these are two pictures of the corner of the site, and the one on the left is looking westbound on Chino Avenue, and then on Chino Avenue looking north, the corner of the project site. The commercial project consists of 4 single-story buildings in the commercial development. The larger one is located on the west side of the project in this area here. The other 3 buildings are on the east side, and they sort of surround a little plaza area there. The one building here in the corner is the one that has a drive-through component, so there's a drive-through here on this area. The project includes 2 access points. The one on the south portion of your slide, that's Chino Avenue. That is a right-in, right-out access. The one on the top right area of your slide, that along Pipeline Avenue, that is a full access. That's proposed to be a full access drive-through. There's parking throughout the development to accommodate future commercial development. And this just gives you an idea of what the proposed architecture would be for the site. I know in your packet you have a number of exhibits that show a little more, but I just wanted to show everybody what it would potentially look like. On October 16th, the Planning Commission held a public hearing. A number of residents attended the meeting that were in opposition of the project. The main issues brought up by the residents included traffic impacts, drainage, and land use compatibility in terms of lighting, noise, and fumes and odors. These concerns are similar to the ones that they brought up throughout the development process, including at a neighborhood meeting we held for the project. Prior to the Planning Commission meeting, we actually met with a number of the residents, both on the site or out in the site and at City Hall, and talked to the residents about the issues and then how staff and the applicant address the issues as part of the development of the project, the future development of the project. In terms of traffic impacts, the residents stated their concern with traffic and accidents just in general in the area with the proposed development. So they believe that it would increase more traffic and there would be more accidents associated with that. They were also concerned about existing truck traffic and potential added by the project on Pipeline and Chino, specifically more so on Pipeline Avenue. It's not a truck route. We talked to the applicant about the ability to enforce our traffic along an area that's not, part of the city yet. So we indicated that we can't do it at this point, but when it ever comes into the city, then we would be able to regulate it. On the east side, we are now, since it's part of the city, we'll be able to enforce traffic along the east side of the project now that it's come in and been annexed as part of the MLC project. The residents were also concerned about the access points, specifically in this area here. They were concerned about it conflicting with the residents that live in this area. Traffic coming out, they're trying to move out of or get out of their driveway. It would conflict with what they had in terms of their access, their existing access. A few residents were concerned about drainage along Pipeline Avenue, specifically the west side. There is some existing, let me pull this up here, some existing flooding right here in this location. So this applicant this resident was concerned about that. There's an existing condition. Apparently, when the county did some improvements further north, they developed a condition that causes flooding when it rains in this location. The resident also was concerned about if they put a block wall along that property boundary, is that going to affect my drainage? Because currently, I believe it flows southbound across the property. Residents met with the applicant and indicated that this project will not be able to add to the existing condition that's out there and may in fact, along Pipeline, it may in fact help that condition as they developed the street improvement there. And then in terms of the block wall on the north end, they would not be allowed to develop and block any drainage flowing southbound. They would have to accept the water flow, so that would not be a condition. We indicated to the resident, I keep saying applicant, but the resident, that that would all be flushed out during the plan check process in terms of the block wall plan check or the street improvement plan check. So that will get flushed out through the process. We don't have all the answers right now, but that will get flushed out throughout the process. The last big one was the land use compatibility. Many residents believe that this project will cause lighting impacts, noise impacts, vehicle fumes, and restaurant odor impacts. Staff analyzed that. To help mitigate it, staff is requiring the applicant to put a 8-foot block wall along the north and the west property boundaries. Normally, this project would require a 6-foot wall. We're increasing the height of the wall. We're conditioning that to be higher. We're also asking the applicant through a condition to look at options for lighting, low lighting, like bollard lighting on this end behind the building instead of the traditional building wall lighting. That could help. That would also be studied later on through a lighting study. There is also a 25-foot setback per our code between the wall and the building, so there's automatic buffer there. And then staff's going to work with the developer to increase the landscaping in both the west boundary and the north boundary. Ultimately, at the Planning Commission meeting, the Planning Commission took the staff report materials, they took public testimony and correspondence from the residents and denied the project 3-2 vote. On October 23rd, the applicant submitted an appeal application appealing the Planning Commission's action to deny the project. The applicant contends that in the appeal application that the project has a high quality design, it's consistent with the general plan, and it meets all development code standards. In addition, they believe that they have addressed all the resident concerns in their new project design or their updated project design. And based on these factors, they indicated that they do not believe the Planning Commission should have denied their project, and they're requesting that the council overturn the Planning Commission's decision. I do want to point out that we received several letters as part of the this hearing. 5 of them are included in your packet. They're letters in opposition. I believe some of the residents are here this evening. And then we received 2 other ones, one in support and another one in opposition. Those were not received in time for the packet, but you do have them before you up at the dais. That concludes my really lengthy presentation. I'm here to answer any questions you may have.
Okay, thank you, Warren. Before we invite the applicant up to address the council, I'd like to open it up to the council members to ask any questions for clarification. Gary? No?
I'll wait also.
Okay, council wishes to wait for any questions. So I'd like to invite the applicant up, and because you are the applicant, you will have 10 minutes to address the council, so please watch, watch your timing, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and members of the City Council. My name is Christopher Chung. I am the project manager for this project, and I also have Giancarlo Gandini, who is a traffic engineer, in which we will switch over for each presentation. Can I have the presentation, please? This is projects at 4076 Chino Avenue. It's approximately 1.8 acres, and it's surrounded, it used to be surrounded by 3 sides of the county, but now it's only surrounded by 2. It was initially proposed in a church in 1993, and in 2014 it was proposed as a gas station with a 7-Eleven with off-sale liquor license. It was purchased by Chino LLC in late 2014, not knowing all the situations that happened in the past. And they purchased it for the sole intentions of developing a commercial neighborhood shopping center. And they started with discussions with the city in 2014 and submitted the application over 2 years ago. I handed you out 20 designs that we've gone through over this project, and we've been through 7 development reviews, and we have numerous revised site plans to address the comments raised by both the city staff, who by the way did an excellent job on this project, and also by the residents, who have also been very cordial and professional to me when I've met with them as well. And we've done this for over a 3-year process. The current project has already been discussed. It's 19,000 square feet, of which 16,000 is commercial retail, and a 3,400 square foot drive-through, and the city required a 200 square foot outdoor dining area, a pedestrian-oriented project. And this project meets all parking code requirements. And it's also designed to screen noise and lighting away from the residential areas. Why a drive-through? We have been asked this many times, is that, first of all, drive-throughs are allowed in neighborhood commercial shopping centers. All your neighborhood commercial shopping centers in the city have drive-throughs. And it's really for project feasibility too, because one of the requirements that we had when we first started is that we had underground utilities, we had to widen the street, we had to relocate catch basins, traffic signals, and street lights. And we have over $1 million in offsites just starting the project. So that relates to project feasibility. We've also, through the project, reduced the square footage of what is allowed under the code to really reflect the comments from city staff, which is more of a pedestrian-oriented shopping center. A traffic study was completed on this, in which the traffic engineer will go in more detail. The level of service of the Chino and Pipeline intersections will remain the same before and after the project, so there is no traffic impacts in our opinion. The city, the outside improvements will only benefit and improve the area. The project meets the definition of neighborhood commercial in the City of Chino General Plan and also in the City of Chino Municipal Code. The 2010 General Plan update studied traffic, land use, zoning, noise, and air quality, and essentially no additional studies are required. Just want to point out to you that there's highlights in there as far as what is service-oriented or what is a neighborhood commercial shopping center, and it's a service radius of approximately 1 mile, and it's in close proximities to residential neighborhoods. Building setbacks is that we just want to point out is that the distance we have from building to building, from our building to the residential buildings are pretty far. It's about 103, I believe it's 103 distance to the north, and I think approximately, I can't read it, but I think it's like 91 to the west. That is wider than a street. Privacy was also a concern from the residents, and we addressed that. We've increased the wall to an 8-foot high wall. We also provided dense landscaping and also tall landscaping. The building scale was also reduced. We went from a higher building to a more of a shorter height building that would be complementary to the area, and we try to be sensitive that it's not high, just doesn't stick out. There's concern about the drive-through speaker sound, and we just want to point out that the drive-through intercom is relatively, and I'm sorry I don't have that, I think it's 36 decibels, and the average discussion communication that someone would have would be about 64. So it's, with the buildings being around it and the speaker pointed towards the intersection, we believe that there would be no impact for the speaker. We also have the 8-foot high walls and also the tall landscaping that would also provide more of a screening. I guess this is just more discussion of the speaker sound, that it's normal speech is 3 feet at 65 decibels, I'm sorry, and speaker sound is at 36. The center is located on Chino and Pipeline. Chino Avenue is a primary artery, and Pipeline is a secondary artery, and both streets have about 45 mile per hour speed limit. So these aren't residential streets. These are streets for the sole purpose of providing a major thoroughfare through the city. I'm sorry. The proposed neighborhood is to the north, we have residential. To the east, we have residential and the daycare, and this was all discussed. I don't think I need to go through this anymore. What we wanted to point out to you is that, the residents indicate this is like a prime residential area for horses. There's a lot of properties along Chino Avenue that are that are either commercial or industrial use, and we want to point that out to you. 4020 has an RV storage. 3996 is a Franco Transport Incorporated. 3968 is a drilling company for geotechnic environmental soil testing, and 3956 is indicated to be Ed's and Glass and Mirrors, but we don't know if they're still in business, but we'll just find that online. On 3936, this is actually a building restoration service company. And on Roswell, there's a 21,000 square foot greenhouse that's leased to the county. We just want to point out that although that may be compatible to the area, that is essentially a commercial use as well. We just believe that the comments made by the Planning Commission, they didn't provide us with any input or understanding of why they denied the project. They said that they had concerns about traffic, but they did not state what the traffic concerns were. And then they mentioned how the vision of why this was located here was a primary factor. So we believe that they turned the project based upon use, whether it's appropriate versus actual impacts of the project, and they did not indicate what those project impacts were. That's the same thing with Commissioner Jones. And while we appreciate all their comments, we just didn't feel we understood why they denied the project, and that's why we're here tonight. Still discussion of why the Planning Commission, we didn't understand why they turned it down. And I wish I could see this better. We made extensive efforts to address this project with both the city and with the residents. I personally met with the residents. We even offered them with financial assistance to address some and mitigate some of the issues such as noise. They were concerned about noise. We said, okay, let's pay for some windows. And only one resident accepted and many turned it down. We just want to point out that there's other commercial retail in the city that has residential around it. One is Mountain Village Plaza. It's northwest corner of Riverside Mountain, has a gas station, Starbucks, and Fitness Fitness 19, and there's residential single family all around it. On the corner of Ramona and Philadelphia, on 3 corners, you have commercial retail, of which you have residential to the east on the southeast corner, and on the southwest corner, you have residential single family to the west, and you have apartments all around it. On the northeast corner, it's also a small commercial project, but you have single-family residents on both sides, so that would be pretty similar to ours as well. All of these have full access centers, or access driveways, including the southeast corner. There's a full access driveway towards the rear of both of them, and one was right next to the east corner, or to the east of the property line. Riverside and Benson, this is another center that's in the city. It has drive-through, gas station, and this is also surrounded by residential in the area. We believe that this project is compatible with the general plan of both the economic development element. It's also compatible with the air quality. And what's important here is that the air quality was studied in this area, in which they essentially said that a level E or worse would be a carbon monoxide hotspot. And this intersection is not a level E, which the traffic consultant will discuss more. And for this, I'm going to transfer it over. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council members. Again, my name is Giancarlo Gandini, and we did perform the traffic impact study for this project. We did conduct extensive analysis, and so I appreciate the opportunity to provide a quick overview of the traffic study. Just to reiterate, the project site plan shown here does provide or propose full access at Pipeline and right turn in out only at Chino Avenue. The traffic impact study analyzed 8 study intersections. It also took into consideration school traffic, which field observations indicated last approximately 20 minutes during the peak hours, which are included in the peak hours that were analyzed in the report. The study found that existing conditions, the intersections currently operate within what's defined as acceptable levels of service, and I'll explain that on this next slide. The intersections are analyzed using the Highway Capacity Manual delay methodology. This is based on procedures established by the county and adopted by the city, which basically provide an objective and quantifiable way of measuring traffic and answering the question of how much is too much. In the city's general plan, it identifies that levels of service A through D are considered acceptable, and levels of service E and F are considered unacceptable. If the project was to cause or worsen a level of service E condition, that would be considered a significant impact. And this is all based on resulting equations that give you the intersection delay, which is then correlated to the level of service based on the thresholds shown there. The project trip generation was done using standard traffic engineering procedures based on the trip generation manual. A common practice is to discount based on the commercial land use to that some of the existing trips are going to divert from the roadways adjacent to the project. For example, currently you might have trips traveling southbound on Pipeline Avenue. Once the project comes into place, they may divert into the project, conduct their business, and then continue south on their normal path as existing. So common practice is to make some sort of adjustment and take a trip generation reduction for that. The traffic analysis was conservative in that it did not take any pass-by trip reductions, essentially overstating the project trips by roughly 60 to 80% during the peak hours that were analyzed. Here's an example of the project impact at the intersection of Pipeline Avenue and Chino, showing before the project as well as after. As shown here, you can see that the project, once the project is in place, the intersection is forecast to continue operating at level of service D in the morning peak hour and level of service C in the evening peak hour. The column to the far right shows that the delay increase is roughly 2.6 seconds during the morning and 1.1 second average delay during the evening peak hour, so relatively small changes. The project does propose some improvements, striping improvements along Pipeline Avenue. Specifically, a dash median will be striped near the project driveway. What this does, and again, these are common, already instituted in other places throughout the city, specifically here shown Pipeline Avenue immediately south of Chino Avenue. This is just south of the project site, as well as Chino Avenue to the east of Pipeline Avenue. That would be the project site there on the northwest corner of the intersection. And what this does is it allows left turns into and out of the project site to be done in a two-stage maneuver. This is just a quick little conceptual animation to show how northbound traffic here, vehicles turning left are able to exit the through travel lane, which allows northbound vehicles to pass them without being blocked while those vehicles wait for their chance to turn left. Same thing for the exiting traffic. They're able to cross first the southbound lanes, wait for an adequate gap, and then continue northbound. And again, this is similar to other conditions throughout the city. The analysis showed that under these conditions, the driveway would operate at level service C or better. And that little movement there would work for vehicles exiting the project site, but also accessing other properties on both sides of Pipeline Avenue. We looked at vehicle queues and determined that there was no stacking conflicts between that northbound left into the project site and the southbound left turn lane. There were some concerns about collision, so we basically were able to corroborate the city's public works records, which were obtained from the statewide integrated traffic record system. I know specifically there was a comment about a rise in the roadway in the southbound direction. At least from the evidence that we see here, there wasn't anything to support that there's existing collisions in the southbound direction. Putting that a little bit into context, there's a graphical tool that is able to map those intersections. The data only goes up to 2016, but it's useful for, this image here is useful for getting a quick sense of proportionally how the intersection of Chino and Pipeline compares to other intersections in the city. As we can see here, there doesn't seem to be anything to indicate a substantially higher than average or substantial concern with respects to collisions here. So in summary, the traffic impact study concluded that there was no impacts that rose to the level of what's considered a significant impact. The intersections are forecast to continue operating at acceptable levels of service with the addition of the project. The dash median would improve access along Pipeline Avenue and the project vicinity there. And the collision records did not appear to indicate any substantial problems at that intersection.
And if I just may conclude and just say, this is a good project. We believe this is a good project for the city. We wanted to provide a project that we believe that the city deserves. And this project took a lot of putting together to present for you here today. And we just ask for your consideration in determining whether this project should move forward or not. Thank you very much.
Okay, we have a problem with the timer. Okay, I have no visibility of the timer. And so I am unable to judge when someone's going over the time.
Keep track of the time frame.
Okay, how long was the presentation?
It went 14 minutes.
14 minutes, okay. So, to be fair, we're going to need to extend the public communication a bit. So, Mr. Galante, what would you recommend?
That's within your discretion, just setting the time now and letting everybody know that that is the timing would be appropriate. If you want to extend to 6 or 7 minutes, that's within your discretion, Mayor.
Okay, for the remaining speakers, we were going to allow 5 minutes in light of the fact that the applicant went over almost 50%. I'll give you 7 minutes. I know this seems nitpicky, but we have a lot of people that need to speak and want to be heard this evening. I do ask you to please be considerate of your fellow audience attendees and our viewing audience, and please limit your comments to unique items, please. Our first, Angela, you'll let me know the time? Okay, our first written request to speak is Mr. Kenjeski.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, council members. My name is Ken Jeske, and I own the home located at 13218 Pipeline Avenue. That property is the second house north of the proposed retail project, and it's on the same side of the street. Like my wife, we don't oppose development of the property at the northwest corner of Chino and Pipeline, but out of respect for our neighbors directly northeast and west of the project, we agree with their disapproval of this project for the multitude of reasons that they have or will be given in written and oral communications. I'm not going to spend my time repeating those. I would like to comment specifically, though, on traffic issues and the project plans for providing access to the project. I have met with city staff and the developer, who was very cordial, at least a couple of times, and I learned there will be an entrance and an exit both on Pipeline and Chino Avenue. The Chino Avenue exit and entrance would be restricted to westbound only, so there's no problem with crossing opposing traffic to enter or leave the project. The Pipeline Avenue entrance and exit is quite different. It'll be located on the north portion of the property and is planned to provide both north and southbound entry and exit from Pipeline, but the northbound exit will be across 2 lanes of opposing traffic. You have to ask yourself how that'll be safe. Supposedly, this is going to be accomplished by restriping the street to create an 11-foot wide, 2-way left turn center lane, or refuge, which is intended to allow both north and southbound traffic on Pipeline to enter the project. It also allows vehicles exiting the project to go southbound or northbound across the 2 lanes of opposing traffic. Herein lays the problem. Pipeline Avenue is only an average of 51 feet wide. It's got 2 southbound lanes and 1 northbound lane between Chino Avenue and several hundred feet to the north, almost to Biscayne Street. Currently, on-street parking is allowed on both sides of the street. Now, as the developer plans show, and the city traffic study's original and alternate striping plans show, the introduction of an 11-foot wide, 2-way left turn center lane will reduce Pipeline to 1 12-foot wide southbound lane, number 1 lane, a 14-foot wide, number 2 southbound lane, and a single 14-foot wide northbound lane. Without eliminating on-street parking, parked vehicles that are a legal width of 8 foot 6 inches, parking 18 inches from the curb, which is legal, 18 inches or less, will reduce the width of the number 2 southbound lane on Pipeline to 4 feet wide. And more importantly, the only northbound lane on Pipeline will be reduced to 4 feet wide. The city traffic study shows that there are 10 to 12,000 vehicles per day traveling on Pipeline. I assume half are north and half are south. Unfortunately, they're not evenly spread over a 24-hour period because we all know there's peaks. I don't think this is going to work. I thought there must be some kind of mistake, but when I spoke with city staff and the developer, they agreed there was and still is a problem. I can't understand how the current plan can restrict only the northbound lane on Pipeline to 4 feet wide if someone is legally parked and still make it through the planning stage and get the approval of department heads. I'm asking you to please direct staff to fix this problem before the project is even considered for approval for the safety of all of us. The plans clearly show the measurements I've referred to, so please take the time to check yourself. You don't have to take my word for it on this. Better yet, drive up and down this section of Pipeline and get a feel for yourself what it's going to be like. I don't want to bring you a problem without offering a solution, so I do have a suggestion. Why don't we create a two-way left turn center lane as planned, but extend it all the way to, it'll be several hundred feet, but go to Biscayne. At that point, Pipeline opens up or widens to 2 lanes north and 2 lanes south. It's much wider there. I would suggest you prohibit on-street parking at that point, in that entire section, to ensure traffic lanes are never restricted or obstructed by parked vehicles. All of my neighbors on both sides of the street have large lots with plenty of room to park. It'll be much safer for everybody. By the way, that's how Pipeline south of Chino is marked currently. All left turn bays, all of them are left turn bays and two-way left center lanes with no parking on either side of the street. I realize the west side of Pipeline from Chino Avenue north, except for the proposed project, is controlled by the county, but the east side of Pipeline is or will be city. Can't this be coordinated between the city and the county to deal with this issue? The developer promised me that he pitched the idea to the county, and it sounded like city staff were favorable to the idea. I would like it to be a condition of approval. I'll close by asking you to please don't rush this to approve the project as it is and subject us all to using a 4-foot wide traffic lane due to poor planning. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Jeske. Belen Jeske? Did I pronounce that correctly?
Yes, it's Belen Jeske.
Belen, okay.
Good evening. My name's Belen Jeske. I live at 13218 Pipeline Avenue, and although I am not opposed to the development of the corner lot at Pipeline and Chino Avenues, I do object to the proposed project. I agree with all my neighbors' reasons for opposing it. I do not believe a drive-through and 17 retail businesses belong there. I read the city's traffic study, and I wonder if they are talking about the same section of Pipeline I live on. Traffic is a huge problem and will only continue to get worse. I have been to meetings and personally spoke with the developer. It seems the city wants this developer to make over $1 million worth of improvements, which leaves the developer with no alternative but to build the most lucrative businesses they believe will regain their costs, and that leaves us who live in the neighborhood with the fallout. In another but related matter, the pending housing project across from where I live on the west side of Pipeline north of Chino Avenue initially proposed 45 houses along with the widening of the east side of Pipeline from Chino Avenue to Biscayne Street. That project was rejected by the Planning Commission on April 3rd this year. At that meeting, all commissioners except one gave very legitimate reasons for rejecting it, and the approving commissioner simply said he approved it but gave no explanation. On April 18th, the housing developer appealed this housing project to the City Council. However, with changes to the initial proposal with only 38 instead of 45 houses and omitted widening the street. My husband, Ken Jeske, spoke at this meeting, giving many legitimate safety reasons and urged the city to take advantage of this opportunity to widen the street. Despite the rejection of the Planning Commission and all the reasons given by numerous residents who spoke at that meeting, all the council members except the mayor voted in favor of it. Why have a planning commission and waste everyone's time? Now you have another developer with a tiny piece of land who is taxed with over $1 million worth of city improvements and has the problem of left turns onto Pipeline out of their proposed mall because Pipeline is too narrow. It seems the only solution is a double left turn center lane, which only causes additional problems. In retrospect, the multi-million-dollar housing developers should have been required to widen the street. I respectfully regret you do not approve this project as proposed. Ask yourselves how you would feel if you lived next door. And how would you like an 8-foot fence bordering your properties? Thank you.
Oh, Okay, Linda. Linda, you're going to have to pronounce your last name. I'm not even going to try.
It's easier than
Linda Jolliker.
Jolliker, okay.
Madam Mayor and members of the City Council, my name is Linda Jolliker. I live at 13244 Pipeline Avenue, and I'm the closest neighbor to the north of the project. I've lived on this property for 31 years. Prior to 2010, the neighborhood along Pipeline Avenue between Riverside Drive and Chino Avenue was a quiet residential neighborhood in the county. Pipeline Avenue was a 2-lane road that handled primarily local traffic. Since our mailboxes were across the street from our house, we regularly walked across the street to get our mail. The traffic was minimal and there was no truck traffic. In 2010, San Bernardino County started the Pipeline Street Widening Project. Unfortunately, they only widened the southbound or west side by 1 lane and added a sidewalk to accommodate the students walking to and from Don Lugo High School. Looking back, they should have added added lanes to both sides of the street. Since the street widening project was completed at the end of 2013, the traffic and traffic-related problems have increased dramatically. The traffic study was done by the county indicated that there would be no appreciable increase in traffic in either direction. It has now become a truck route instead of Ramona Avenue, which is the designated truck route in the city of Chino. It is posted at both Riverside and Chino intersections that no trucks are allowed over 5 tons on Pipeline Avenue. The posted speed limit is 40 miles an hour. Neither of these traffic regulations has been enforced because we're in the county. Also in 2010, the city of Chino updated their general plan. They changed the residential zoning of the property on the corner of Pipeline and Chino Avenues to neighborhood commercial. This was not apparent to the neighbors until the current owner decided to develop the property in late 2014. At that time, a 7-Eleven and gas station was proposed. The neighborhood strongly objected to that development for the same basic reasons that we are opposing this one. Any proposal that will become a hangout for the high school kids and increase traffic and noise on that corner is a problem to all of us. The developer is now proposing an area with a drive-through restaurant and retail shops. Although he says the drive-through could be a Starbucks, there's no guarantee that it won't be a hamburger joint. Similarly, the true hours of operation are unclear because no tenants have been secured. A drive-through and restaurant is typically open much later than retail stores. The traffic study submitted by the developer and accepted by the city staff shows no appreciable increase of vehicles on the streets, just like the county study showed in 2010. We residents know these studies do not represent reality and favor the development. After the traffic becomes a bigger problem, no one will take responsibility for dealing with it. The developer must also provide extensive and very expensive improvements on the corner of Pipeline Avenue and Chino Avenue as required by the city. He's adding the drive-through restaurant in order to make the project financially viable. These improvements on the corner will not alleviate the existing traffic issues currently impacting both streets. We believe the traffic will be further congested because currently there are no plans to add another northbound lane on Pipeline in the near future. The developer wants to add a double left turn lane on Pipeline to help address the traffic issues. Anyone entering or exiting our driveways now have major problems crossing the lanes of traffic. The addition of another 30-foot driveway by the development on Pipeline Avenue will only add to the problem. This driveway will only be 20 feet from our driveway and will be a major entrance and exit for most of the service trucks and the exit onto Pipeline from the drive-through. Pipeline Avenue is only 51 feet wide, where these 6 driveways are located directly across from one another. The current proposal will allow the traffic from the development to exit and turn either north or south onto Pipeline. It will also allow northbound and southbound traffic on Pipeline to enter the development. Welcome to the suicide lane. We have all lived here for many years and do not want to be driven out by unnecessary commercial developments. Being told to just sell our homes and properties and move if we don't like it is not acceptable. This proposed project brings to the forefront exactly the problems that the city of Chino faces when it wants to expand into the unincorporated areas of Chino. It brings together the county, the city, the commercial, and the residential sections to create a new neighborhood that should benefit all of Chino. The Planning Commission took the time to review the proposal and to actually visit the site. They denied the project 3-2 because they felt the project itself was good, but the location was not. This decision is now being appealed. It will be up to you, the City Council of Chino, to decide if this project really fits here. I'm in agreement with the Planning Commission. I don't think it fits in this area. If it doesn't fit, do not permit. Thank you.
Hey, again, I do ask that you not repeat what a prior speaker said. The next written request to speak is Jeff Jolliker. Jolliker. Gosh. Okay.
Madam Mayor, City Council, my name is Jeff Jolliker. I live at 13244 Pipeline. We're directly north of the project. I want to hit 3 or 4 items on this. One is the traffic study itself. The county finished the pipeline project at the end of 2014 in 2013 into the first part of 2014. This traffic study was done in 2015 when the traffic on pipeline was just beginning to increase. So the traffic study is looking at a traffic plan which is, who knows what it is today. The traffic plan is not valid for this. Starting in 2014, we got to the point where the CHP knew my name when I called. We were calling on a regular basis because of the increase in traffic and truck traffic. CHP was out numerous times. Yep, you've got truck traffic. Yep, they're doing 60 miles an hour. The trucks are all illegal. We do not have the personnel to deal with it. When somebody gets killed, we may be able to work with it. And they were out numerous times. The developer is now planning to put in the development on the corner. We're facing the same problem. We have more traffic on pipeline it can handle, and we have the same exact problem. Pipeline goes from 51 feet coming down. Where it gets to his development, it opens up. It's like a funnel. The other thing that is interesting going through the traffic report, and I was grateful for the staff to send us a copy to actually look at it. It was very helpful. The things that jumped out on this is that the traffic conditions are for 2015. They don't apply to today. Their proposed project, they're looking at from a drive-through restaurant, they're looking at about 1,300 cars a day through the drive-through. And this is from Trip Generation Handbooks from 2004, as they referenced in their report. I went up and talked to Starbucks, a mile and a half away. What do you guys run? On an average day, their drive-through traffic is 1,350 cars to 1,800 cars a day going out. And that includes no other traffic in the residential center. The traffic problem is what the developer really faces, because pipeline is a major north-south access. The county did the minimum to widen pipeline, figuring the city's going to be stuck with it when they annex it. And they left a lot of work to be done on pipeline, just in the cities to deal with. We were here for the discussion the city had on the annexation and the workshop, which was extremely enlightening as far as what the city is facing and working with this. Just to summarize it, the problem with the area is traffic on Pipeline. It's not large enough to handle what they're proposing there. And as a case in point, since Thursday, we've had 3 accidents between Pipeline and Chino. We had one at Biscayne, which closed the roadway. We had another one Saturday morning on Pipeline, which shut Pipeline down for 10 hours while they put the light poles back together again and electrical power. You also had another accident on Pipeline, on Chino, just past the developer on the eastbound side with a semi, which is illegal on it. And so, again, it comes back to the traffic problem. The traffic report is looking at data which is very, very outdated. And it's amazing what you can do with computer programs today. But until you actually look at the site and look at the problems, Pipeline is a unique and a real pain in the tush area because of the age of the area and of the flooding and the way the county put the street in to protect the corner of Pipeline and Chino. And there's a major hill on southbound Pipeline, which is right in the middle of where the developer wants to put his exit onto Pipeline. The county actually raises the entire road at that area to back the water up past our house and even further north to keep the corner from flooding. Other than that, thank you very much for your time.
Okay, the next is Claudia Schmidt.
Good evening. I'd like to thank the City Council and Madam Mayor for taking the time to hear our concerns this evening. I'm sorry, I'm a little sore throat tonight. I'm not going to talk about the traffic. I'm trying not to repeat it, but I have a few things. I'm the person that did all the research through EBSCO-HOST and also the AQMD. I don't know if you saw everything that I had submitted last week. I am a teacher for the Pomona Unified School District, and when I was in grad school, something I learned how to do was research. And I'm glad to hear that you feel that Chino is a green community and you want to stay green. My house, I live at 4080 Chino Avenue, and my house borders this project, which I feel is a beautiful project, but in the wrong location. You already have heard all about traffic. You haven't heard about Chino Avenue, but it's a mess. They say big trucks don't come down there. We deal with this. This was me coming home from work. This is like 2:45, 2:50 in the afternoon. I deal with these big trucks all the time, and we hear them and our windows rattle. And it was very nice. Mr. Chung offered us $10,000 to put new windows in, but we had to say, I'm sorry, we'd rather have it quiet. The noise he could hear was right through our brand new windows that we put in 10 years before when they took part of our front yard to put an extra lane on Chino Avenue. So we are stuck with a lot of noise all the time. I did research on noise and air pollution. Here's some of the facts that I found out. The AQMD actually helped me with this. They couldn't understand why they'd be putting restaurants so close to residents and a school and its preschool that plays they play outside right across the street from this proposed drive-through restaurant. And mind you, they're going to put additional restaurant space right on the wall, right where my bedroom windows are. I'm concerned with the air because my grandson, I have custody of a grandchild who has severe allergies and asthma. He was on a breathing machine for many years. My husband had to retire 12 years ago because he has asbestosis. My mother that I care for 4 days a week, my 89-year-old mother has COPD. So breathing makes a big difference in our family. So I'm very conscious of that. We've also have the filters in our house. We do everything. Here's some of the, out of the research I got. Drive-through restaurants are the most common places for vehicles to idle. An idling vehicle emits 20 times more pollution than one traveling at 30 miles per hour. Breathing exhaust can aggravate asthma, allergies, and cardiovascular disease. Exhaust emissions increase school absences, ER visits, and can cause premature death. Now you have to remember on right in front of our house there is where Don Lugo's driveway goes in. Those cars are backed up past pipeline, past the preschool, trying to get in there in the morning. I couldn't go left if I wanted to, and I can hardly get out of my driveway. I have to wait for the light to turn red and then try to jut out of my driveway. And I'm sure that's what most of the people have to do on my street. Their proposed exit on Chino Avenue there is right next to my driveway. And they're gonna have to jut out and try to go out because they can't go through all the way because my fence goes to the line, to the property line. Here's some more facts. Children are more susceptible to air pollution because they breathe 50% more air per pound of body weight than adults, and they are more likely to play actively outdoors. The American Lung Association states that 1 minute of idling produces more carbon monoxide than the smoking of 3 packs of cigarettes. These little kids are playing right outside there. Not to mention the kids, all the athletes over at Don Lugo, all the little leaguers over at the Heritage Park right there. And since nothing has been signed yet, we don't know if it's a Starbucks or what it's going to be. If it's Starbucks and you have over 1,500 cars a day, you're going to have a lot of emissions that are sitting there idling. You know, you're waiting in line. Everybody does it. And we're going to have additional restaurant space right back up to my house. You might have an 8-foot tall wall, but I'm sure their ceilings are taller than 8 foot. And the AQMD told me, there's another thing, let me see, that the average diesel engine on the road today would have to drive 10 miles on the freeway to put out the same mass of particulates as a single charred broiled hamburger patty, one patty. And that's all in research. They've also found road traffic noise exposure may be related to increased hyperactivity and more emotional symptoms in children. Noise sensitivity is correlated with poor health outcomes. And the commercial cooking is the largest source of directly emitted particulate pollution in the Southland. I would like to see something there. I'm not against development. My husband and I want something developed. And all the businesses that you saw that people are doing on Chino Avenue, they're not causing any extra traffic. They're not open at night. I want to sleep at night. My bedroom windows are right on that wall there. Is it over? You got 1 minute. Oh, I got 1 minute, okay. Okay, so I feel this is a very nice development, but in the wrong area. I don't want to be next to a socialization area. The socialization area is going to be for all these high school kids coming over there. And my husband will fill you in on all the crime we've had at our house when the kids used to congregate over on that corner. When it sloped down, there was a big problem, and he'll go more into that. But with the research that has been provided to you on problems associated with this proposed development, we ask that you please decline its approval. And I thank you for your time.
Thank you, Claudia. Next is David Schmidt.
My name is David Schmidt. I live at 4080 Chino Avenue. I'm next to the project. And I'd like to thank Madam Mayor and the City Council for hearing our concerns. We've been burglarized when the kids were there. There was a barn next to ours, and they would come over, they cut a hole through our chain link fence. They stole thousands of dollars worth of tools, equipment. We had tires slashed, cars stolen right out of our driveway. Never anything returned. And when we go to call, you can't call the Chino PD, we're county. And if this project goes through, they're gonna jump the fence, 8-foot block wall or not, they're gonna come over and we're gonna have the same problems again. And we call the sheriff because the Chino PD doesn't have nothing to do with us. There was tagging on our fence. I put up a wood fence to keep them out so they couldn't see in there. They tagged it. Even today now, I find broken alcohol bottles in my driveway. I find hamburger wrappers. And these are from miles away. What's it gonna be when they open a drive-through next door to me? You know, I don't wanna run junkyard. The cars, I don't wanna go into that too much, but where their driveway exits, gonna go right into my driveway on Chino Avenue, and right across the street is Don Lugo's entrance and outlet. And the traffic study didn't do anything about the cars coming east on Chino. They drive into Don Lugo's driveway, they drop the kids off, they drive back out, make an illegal left-hand turn. Chino and Pipeline Avenue never sees those cars, and there's a lot of them. The Sheriff's Department, we got some information from them online, and from January 1st of this year till October 24th, there have been 230 crimes committed at the Harkins Starbucks Center on Chino Avenue. It's 230 crimes. Also been several burglaries in the adjacent neighborhood. It's all from the traffic that they get in there. It's public knowledge, can be found on the website of crime statistics in similar areas and crime mapping. We would prefer having something developed there. All we got now is gophers coming over. It's ridiculous. I had gopher companies come out and they just laughed. They said, "What are we gonna do? You got a breeding ground next door." So,
I sympathize with you. We live near a vacant
whatever they
field.
can come up with that doesn't, cause us to stay up at night, make noise, and limit the traffic. There's I don't know what you call it, office complex on Riverside and Pipeline. It's nicely taken care of. It looks nice. There's not much traffic from it. But, they like to say, they're doing $1 million worth of work for the city. They're gonna have to make money. I don't know what the dollar value is on an office building, but whatever they can come up with that I can sleep at night, I would appreciate. And like I said, they did offer us $10,000. What's that gonna do? I've got windows that don't keep the noise out now. So that's about all I have to say. I appreciate if you take our concerns at heart.
Thank you, David. Ben, is it Stauffer?
Yes.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, and staff. I'm here tonight, and I'm an attorney. I don't live in the area, but I am friends with Mr. Joliker, who does live immediately north of the property, and I agreed to take a look at this situation for him because I'm pretty concerned about what he was describing. And I think we've all heard, there's lies, damn lies and statistics, and I think the developer's engaged in some of those here tonight in front of you. I just want to address those first off since they're fresh in my mind. But I think the developer comes up with this 36 dB for a drive-through and 64 for a normal conversation. And I think just your common sense will clear that up for you, that it certainly takes more volume to operate a drive-through than it does for you and I to talk face-to-face in a room. That doesn't make any sense whatsoever. I know I have a diesel truck. I have to shut the engine off or I still can't hear, but that device screams over the top of my engine every time I pull up. And I think if you just review that in your mind, I would encourage you not to get the wool pulled over your eyes that a drive-through is at a lower dB level than a conversation is. And that's a big item because this drive-through is going to be within 300 feet of homes. You're going to have windows to bedrooms, windows to the kitchen that are right within reach of this drive-through. And the preschool is only going to be 150 feet or less. Miss Butler, who lives across the street to the east, about 150 feet away from this drive-through. Those are her front bedrooms. Okay, so It's been bandied about that it may be a Starbucks. Starbucks are generally open from 4:30 a.m. to 10 p.m. So from 4:30 a.m. to 10 p.m., if you want a loudspeaker in front of your front bedrooms of your house, have at it. These people don't want that, and they're concerned about it. On the various properties that the applicant pointed out as commercial properties in the area, alleged commercial properties, apparently he wants it where we can't run a business out of our homes anymore. You've all been on Google Maps, and if you click on various properties, if somebody happens to run a business out of their home, it'll pop up. I think his big example was a greenhouse, which by its definition, we don't have any light, we don't have any fumes, we get oxygen coming out of that place. We're not concerned about the greenhouse. It's also a residential property, and if you really look at the map, look at the entire half-mile square all the way around that intersection, and you'll find that the only commercial property that's going to be in there when this is said and done, if this is approved, is this one. Everything else is residential that may have a commercial operation being done at the same time on the property, as many of you may have. I'm sure insurance businesses usually started in a home before they got an office, so some of you may be able to relate to that. But the preschool's in a house. It's a preschool, yes, but it's in a house, and it's kids. To the south, they count as a commercial property the high school. That's not a commercial property. That's a high school. High schools comply with residential neighborhood requirements. We have to have high schools for the kids to go to. It makes sense to have a high school in the residential properties. It does not make sense to have a drive-through, especially at this intersection where the traffic is already horrendous. The applicant states that there's currently nothing in their traffic study, but done by Kuntz and Associates, nothing in the traffic study that says there's going to be any increase in traffic. Again, I call upon your common sense. You're business people, you understand these things. If there's no increase in traffic, how does the drive-through make any money? If it's just the people going past, going to high school, going to their homes, how does the drive-through make any money? They have to have an increase in traffic. If you drive by the intersection now, you'll see there's a traffic problem. The other thing that really got me going was a 20-minute peak traffic time at schools. I don't live next to Don Lugo, but I live next to several other schools in Norco. And 20 minutes is way understated. 20 minutes before school even lets out, the cars are lined up and waiting for the kids. And no offense, kids, but why they can't walk home, I don't fully understand that. But they can't, and nobody can. Everybody gets picked up. I mean, when we grew up, that was the exception, not the rule. If you were getting picked up, it's because you broke your nose playing football and you had to go to the doctor. Okay? Now it's the rule. So for the applicant to sit here and say there's a 20-minute peak period around school going in and school coming out, I think you know as well as I do that that doesn't hold water. As far as the citizens here, I think what really got my interest is they're in a no man's land. They live in the county. They're being governed right now by the city. And the city's making a decision that's going to affect them and only them, not the city. This decision, as far as the impacts it will have, affect everything north of Chino. It really doesn't affect anything south of Chino. The street's larger south of Chino. The city's done a good job on the areas that the city is in control of. The problem is the city's notched out 2 little properties on the north side of Chino, but there's been no support up to date. And I know you guys are heading that way, but I think it's premature now to move forward with anything like this because there's no support for the drainage, the traffic, these issues that we're talking about. The lighting issue, there's one thing that wasn't brought up. The lights are going to be right on the Schmidt's bedroom windows as far as the building lights. They're also going to be right on the south side of the Jolliker's residence. But the other lights I wanted to bring to your attention, and again, if it's a drive-through like Starbucks, it could go from 4:30 a.m. to 10 p.m. You've got Miss Butler who lives directly across the street from the east exit. Every car that drives out of there is going to shine their lights right on her 2 front bedroom windows all day long. More importantly, all night long. So if you're in there trying to get some shut-eye, you're going to have the constant flow of headlights coming over your bedroom windows. So when these people show up here repeatedly for various hearings, that's why. Lastly, and just to summarize, the Planning Commission you have is because they can do more homework. They did a site visit. They went out there. They looked at things. They took in a lot more information, and I know you're getting up to speed on it now, but they took in a lot more information, and they ultimately decided, like we did, good project, bad spot. Not a good spot for this project. Somewhere else might work well. With regard to the lightings and other
Sir,
concerns.
you're out of time.
uh,
Sorry.
Thank you very much. Arlene Arlene Mortz? You have to correct.
It's Moritz.
Moritz.
Moritz, like St. Moritz.
Okay.
And good evening, everyone. My husband and I moved to Chino in 1999. However, I have worked with the Chino Unified School District since 1989. I wanted to be close to the school I work at, and I love the country life. However, I have watched Chino change from a slow and country life to a very busy and noisy city. It now concerns me that the property on Pipeline at Chino Avenue will be developed into a fast food restaurant with additional restaurant spaces and other facilities. This will result in more traffic, noise, and harmful emissions. My husband and I will be retiring in a few years. We have been preparing our home for when we can enjoy a quieter time in our life. Now we are unsure if that will be possible. Due to a death in my family, I have brought my parents here to live with us. They have enjoyed sitting and looking out the window and watching the students play football and enjoying their new environment. Unfortunately, they have to deal with the loud noise and a view of continual busy traffic and large trucks. It is difficult for them to go places, so I have fixed our yard to look like a park. They can sit outside and enjoy the fresh air. It is difficult to take them places, so the family comes here to visit them. I've prepared my home to make it easy, safe, and comfortable for them, which has cost a lot of money. One of our main concerns, being this second house from the corner, is the potential offensive odors, dangerous emissions, and increased traffic and noise that we will experience if this project is approved. My mother and father are very sensitive, and if the odors, dangerous emissions, and noise become too much for them, we will be forced to move. I have spoken to friends in the real estate field, and they say at the current market being as it is at this time, having the developments such as the one being proposed at this time would substantially devalue my property and make it difficult to sell. My parents' health is a great worry to me, so if I am forced to move for any of these reasons, it would cause great emotional distress to my family. With the proposed property as it is, we would not be able to sell our home and move, and or sustain the same quality of life that we have set for ourselves and my parents. My 94-year-old father has been diagnosed with early stages of dementia, and to help him sustain his current mental state, we have to minimize change by moving, by not moving. My 88-year-old mother has a heart condition, and that has worsened since the death of my sister. I understand something needs to be built on the property, and I am in agreement with that. However, we are already impacted with dangerous emission, noise due to the heavy traffic. I'm aware that the traffic report was prepared during a minimum day and testing week. I believe this was not an accurate traffic report. I'm trying to create a calming and healthy lifestyle for my parents, giving them the best quality of life for their last remaining years. I agree with Commissioner Johnson and Commissioner Jones that the development of this property is not suited for our neighborhood community because of the amount of traffic going through this area, and the developer should try to find something that would not cause additional traffic noise and harmful unhealthy emissions. I agree that the traffic in Chino is getting worse and worse. We believe one day Chino will be like Temecula off the 15th freeway, where you just wait and wait and wait to get on and off the freeway. No more open land, just cars and houses everywhere. We are also aware that developer was exempt from having to do environmental studies. This is confusing to us because This development would result in significant effects relating to noise, traffic, and air quality. My husband and I agree with our neighbors who have submitted ample information as to why the property should not be developed as the developer has requested. Putting a fast food restaurant with additional restaurant spaces and retail shops would not be a good fit for our corner. We have read his appeal and understand the City Council has played a huge part by rezoning this piece of property. Please remember that we are the community. When you make your decision, we are the ones who have to live there. We are the ones that have to listen to the noise. And just walking up here, it was a wonderful smell, and I told my husband, how would you like to smell this smell every single day? Do you really want to smell a whole bunch of restaurant smells? So I don't know about that, honey. What do you think? And it just made it so real to us. So I know you have a lot of things to think about tonight, but I ask that you consider us, consider where we're coming from. This is where we're going to be living, not any of you. Thank you.
Thank you. We have some more written requests to speak, and I ask again, we've heard your concerns about the traffic, so please try to limit your comments to new information. The next one is Brenda Molesky.
Apparently didn't speak loud enough last time, which is amazing because I'm Italian and I'm usually pretty loud, so we were misquoted, so I want to make sure that I clarify some things. Madam Mayor and the City Council, thank you for your time and energy on this. I'm Brenda Molesky. My husband and I are realtors. My sister Antoinette McHugh owns the property at the preschool and daycare center, and I have an interest in the business as well. So, my sister Anta and I would like to clarify where we stand on the proposed development on the northwest corner of Chino Avenue and Pipeline. This is a beautiful proposed development that is inappropriate for the location. We are gravely concerned about all of the added pollution, traffic, and loitering. Originally, we were relieved that it was not going to be a liquor store or a gas station, so we were not against the lot being developed. That being said, after we read all the research that Claudia showed us on the harmful effects of drive-through and fast food restaurants, we are thoroughly against the development in this neighborhood. The school-age children's playground is right across the street. If you looked at the view, where the Starbucks is, we've got the cars, and then we've got our huge playground there. So that is where our children are playing. It's across the street, and as well as Don Lugo's tennis courts. We have many children that suffer from allergies and asthma that would be harmed by all of the added emissions. We do think this is a great development in a different area. This development should benefit everybody, not just the developer. After reading the research, we are sure the council members will understand the importance of requiring environmental testing. We appreciate all of the time and energy that you put into making this city as lovely as it is. I will say, working with the developer in the beginning when I was speaking with him, Chris is a very charming man, young man, he's been very cooperative, but it's still a challenge to put that kind of a development, as in the Chino Champion. They refer to it as a mini mall. And I think that's a pretty accurate description. So I hope you take all these new information into consideration. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Irene Hernandez-Blair.
Hello, Mayor and City Council members. I'm here tonight as a parent of a Don Lugo High School student. And I do want to say that we have an additional Don Lugo student. He didn't come up because he's not here on a project. He's here for the appeal. So I want to make sure that we acknowledge our freshman, Gregory Mota, that's in the audience.
Well, he should come up so that he's on
Yeah,
camera.
he should have come up.
Gregory. Just come up to say hi. It's your 2 minutes of fame.
Hello, my name's Greg Ramoda. I'm just here for the hearing.
Thank you.
So I'm here for my son, Gregory, and all the other students of Don Lugo High School as a parent. I support the original decision of the Planning Commission to deny PL 15-0389 and PL 15-0390 for the property located at the northwest corner of Chino Avenue and Pipeline Avenues. The project manager referenced other commercial complexes in residential areas. I want to note that none of those are in close proximity to a school such as this project. Traffic congestion at Don Lugo has increased. The student enrollment increased this year, which is a great thing, which means, unfortunately, more cars. I have witnessed the inability of our school buses to exit the school site because drivers block the driveways. Drivers ignore traffic laws and often park in emergency lanes. Most recently, during a medical emergency at Don Lugo, Chino Valley Fire had a difficult time clearing traffic for an ambulance in order to transport a student. Drivers often cut around waiting cars and have come close to hitting students in the crosswalks. I can't imagine what will occur with 1,800 additional cars coming from Starbucks or any other drive-through restaurant. The drive-through Starbucks at Central and Philadelphia is always congested. It creates a horrendous traffic into the Smart and Final shopping center. This type of traffic would not be safe for our students. Adding more vehicles into the area near Don Lugo High School would not be a sound decision. If a Starbucks is built, it is also important to consider that exposing adolescents to caffeine poses a threat to our children's health. Medical News Today reported in 2016 that teens are the fastest growing population of caffeine users. 83.2% of teens reported consuming some form of caffeinated beverages on a regular basis. In adolescence, 100 to 400 milligrams of caffeine can cause side effects such as nervousness, anxiety, jitterness, sleep problems, and increased heart rates. One venti-sized beverage at Starbucks averages 480 milligrams of caffeine. Add a shot of espresso, and that significantly increases the amount of caffeine consumed. The American Academy of Pediatrics discourages caffeine consumption in teens because of cardiovascular concerns and the negative effects caffeine causes in teens entering puberty. Our city has been recognized several times as being one of the 100 best communities for youth. As such, I urge you to support the original decision of the Planning Commission and deny the appeal tonight. Make the best decision for the youth at Don Lugo High School. Please consider their safety and their health. Have a happy Thanksgiving.
And the last written request to speak is Roberta Butler.
Madam Mayor, City Council members, and city staff. Most of what I've written has probably been said, but in any event, my name is Roberta Butler, and I oppose the site known as the Center at Pipeline as currently drafted. I live directly across from the site and am deeply concerned by the traffic that it will create, among other issues. I don't have technical or extensive traffic reports or studies, but I do have 43 years of experience living on Pipeline, living with the changes in the area, and dealing with the ever-changing traffic congestion. Unless you live here and deal with the fast, excessive traffic situation as it exists, the traffic studies are not going to adequately address the situation. The proposed project will have its primary driveway a few feet south of my narrow driveway, which requires that I back out into the street. The developer is requesting the ability of its patrons to turn left out of that driveway and go northbound on Pipeline. Allowing left turns will impact several of the driveways, the residents' driveways, and create an unsafe crisscrossing of the traffic. I've had several meetings with city council, city staff, and with the developer, and they've all been very courteous and trying to be helpful. The developer offered to assist me in widening my driveway so I'd have the ability to turn around and go out. I can't put in a circular drive because of the way the telephone poles are situated. However, he told me I would have to support his project in order to gain his assistance. I indicated I could only support the project if the developer could meet a few of my requests. He would not, so I did not. There's no plans to widen Pipeline. Their answer is to put in the center two-way turn lane, which they think will alleviate concerns, and I believe it will further create more congestion because of the crisscrossing of traffic in multiple directions. There is a relatively new shopping center at Ramona and Philadelphia with a similar space plan to the proposed Pipeline and Chino Avenue plan. That center, which includes a fast food drive-through restaurant, allows no left turns from the shopping center from any driveway, and no U-turns are posted at Ramona and Pipeline and Philadelphia. In addition, there are businesses on 3 of the 4 corners, and no residential driveways immediately impact the paths of the cars exiting or entering that shopping center. That is not the case at Pipeline and Chino Avenue. In fact, no other retail shopping centers in the area have issues with driveways that crisscross in such close proximity with motorists entering and exiting a shopping center. To adequately and safely serve the neighborhood, compromises must be made, and no left turns should be permitted from that center. The developer did argue about the residential neighborhood, you know, the homes that are having commercial businesses. However, businesses run from a residential property do not impact our daily lives as a fast food restaurant would. Even with restricted hours, we will still have noise, noxious odors, extra lighting, signage, delivery trucks, and additional traffic congestion well into the evenings and on the weekends. Additionally, the center would be a huge magnet for Don Lugo students as they leave school in the afternoon. Students currently disperse after school. The center will give them a place to congregate and hang out. I've lived at my residence since 1974. I have no plans to move. I've loved the rural open feel of Chino. We raised horses for years. My daughter and granddaughter live with me as well. Our neighborhood is a minority in the large scheme of things, and we cherish our way of life. And there are few neighborhoods like ours. I don't think it's selfish of us to want to preserve what we have and ask the city council to help us preserve the environment and neighborhood by not allowing the project as proposed. The applicant states that the final design is the result of comments and concerns raised by the adjacent residents, and the city staff's report states that the applicant believes that all major concerns identified by the residents have been fully addressed. However, that's not so. There has been no mitigation to our request for no left turns from the center onto Pipeline. This is a major unresolved concern for the adjacent residents. No left turns work for other centers in the area, and it would work for this one.
You have 1 minute, ma'am.
The developer has the right to build. We acknowledge this and do not object to development. However, what about the rights of the existing residents to the quiet, peaceful enjoyment of their homes and property? We need compromises. We respectfully request that the City Council uphold the Planning Commission decision to deny the project as currently proposed and not to rush to decision. Consider changes to require no left turns from the center and only approve the site permit and deny the conditional use permit for a drive-through restaurant and restrict the restaurant service to on-site only. This would mitigate a lot of concerns and provide some relief to the residents. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Okay, those are the only written requests to speak. Is there anyone else in the audience that would like to address the council on this issue? Okay. Next, the applicant may come up for a 5-minute response.
Good evening. Madam Mayor, members of City Council, we'll try to address some of the comments that were raised. With respect to traffic, and there was a question of as far as whether we could work with the county to try to get red curbs painted on Pipeline. The answer to that is absolutely yes. We would actually like the city to condition that we would coordinate with the county to make that happen. As far as left turns out of the center, I just want to point out that whenever there's additional restrictions on a project, all it does is that it lessens our ability to get more quality tenants in there. With that being said, there's a lot of concerns about the left turn out. If this council so wishes, we will eliminate that left turn out, even though we think it adversely impacts our project. We are here to try to get your feedback to how to make a project work under your vision of making this a neighborhood commercial center. We did not designate this a neighborhood commercial center. It was designated by the City Council, and we're just trying to implement that general plan. We are not the same owner that proposed the liquor store. We purchased it afterwards, not knowing what the issues were. We understand that there's concerns about high school kids, but we also believe that high school kids are also Chino residents, and I'd rather have my child at a place in which it's well managed versus a place that you don't know where they're going. So with that, we just think that we can't not have them not come, but we can't, with proper management, we believe that we can also address a lot of issues. The traffic study is not valid. They're saying that is dated 2015. That's absolutely correct because our application to the city was about the same time. So it just took us 2 years to get through the process. So when we submitted our plans, as you indicated, we started in 2014 and 2015 we submitted our plans. That was a time frame of the traffic study. And we believe that report is still valid today. They mentioned the number of cars, that we don't believe that there wasn't any traffic being generated. We do believe that there was traffic generated. In fact, for the fast food, we believe it's about 1,700 trips a day. But when you would look at, and I guess they talked about the I guess again about the hot spot and about emissions. We just want to point out that the current existing conditions at the Chino and Pipeline intersection, you have about 27,000 cars that go through there daily. We estimate in early AM peak hours, you have 112 cars that are queued at that intersection. So 6 to 8 vehicles at a drive-through in the same time frame we don't believe generates that much more emissions. And in fact, again, you got to point to your general plan, which designates that hot spots are level of service E or worse. So we believe that is addressed. Let's see, different restaurants. The only reason why the site plan shows different restaurants everywhere is because the staff questioned, if we don't get the restaurant on the corner, where else can they go? Do you want to designate other areas? And we said, sure. But the reality is that those restaurants would only be on that corner. The school district has been supportive of the project. I did meet with the superintendent. That's why they have not submitted a letter of opposition. And they even offered their site to hold the community meeting, but we did not pursue that. Let's see. I cannot speak to crime that's currently at 4080 Chino. You know, I don't know what to say about that. All I can say is that the current condition of vacant land probably encourages that more than a development. And I see how I need to wrap it up. Let's see. We believe that this is consistent with land use and general plan. We believe that this project, and 36 decibels, I did misspeak on that. I just want to point that out. That is traveling out from that speaker, that by the time it gets to the residential areas, it'll be 36 decibels. So I apologize for that. That's what happens when you try to present somebody else's slide. You know, and so that's my mistake. Let's see. I'm sorry. There's a couple other things. Is that if the fast food drive-through is an issue, we will consider removing it. But we believe that we're trying to provide a financially feasible project. So if this council thinks that we need to get rid of that drive-through, we will look at that. But we ask that if you deny this project, just don't deny it straight out. We ask you that you deny it without prejudice, so that we may go back with city staff and perform additional studies and designs. And that concludes my presentation. Be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Okay. Next step is, without any further public comments, I'm going to close the public hearing. And the council, I'm going to turn it back to the council. If the council does have questions, they can ask that. Mr. Elrod.
Yes, I appreciate the applicant coming up, but I think you still have a lot of homework to do, especially with the traffic survey. I'd like to see some elevations and heights of how tall some, I know the elevations went up and down on that corner. Traffic flow is going to be a big problem, and how you address it, I think, Mr. Jinsky, is it? Jinsky. I think he had some real good points on that. Light glare, I think that's another thing that could be a potential problem. The drive-through, I don't know if it's going to work there. I think that the project is a nice-looking project, but I agree with the Planning Commission that it's in the wrong place. So that's my feeling on it. I listened to the other councilman, but I think it's premature for us to approve this project. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Rodriguez.
Yes. As a former counselor at Don Lugo, guidance counselor, I'm concerned not only of attendance, but of the 5 domains that I would oversee as the counselor at Don Lugo for the students, that being the personal, social, academic, career, and civic character responsibilities. Seems like a very good project, but in the wrong place.
Mr. George.
Thank you. Okay, let's, I guess the first question I want to ask, because the applicant, did I hear you say that you met with the superintendent and he approved this project?
Yes, I met with the superintendent, and he said as long as there wasn't a gas station with alcohol, they had no issues. And they actually, this was before the changes. It still had, at that time, had 2 restaurants and had a bigger project.
Madam Mayor, may I interrupt
Yes.
for a second?
Yes, Fred.
If you're going to ask the applicant some questions, we're going to have to reopen the public hearing to accept the testimony.
Okay,
which
then
you
I'll
can do.
reopen the public hearing. Do you want to finish answering? Because I know I'm kind of breaking protocol, but I do really feel that it's in the city's best interest for us to have open dialogue.
That is totally acceptable. It's not breaking protocol. It's just that opening the public hearing to make
Okay.
sure the responses are on the record would be appropriate.
Okay.
Yes, and so I did meet with them, and I also did send them the current plans, and they did not respond as far as whether they had any other issues. And if I just may, I forgot to mention that the lighting issues are also resolved, because we have to have 0 lighting at the property line. In addition to that, the buildings and the walls that are being proposed with screen lighting to most of the residents The ones to the east, that one's a little bit open, but the way the direction of traffic is, we don't believe that lighting, except for the headlights exiting, could be an issue.
They didn't ask that, but okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay, as long as you're up there, you might as well stay there. I've got a few more. You said at the planning commission, when they voted against this, that they didn't give you any reasons, and I was at the planning commission meeting. And I believe one of the main questions that they asked was, would you consider getting rid of the left turn onto Pipeline? And you stated at the planning commission meeting that it wouldn't be viable for that center, it wouldn't be profitable for that center or viable at that center to eliminate, to put a no left turn sign up. But now you're saying that you are willing to put a no left turn sign going so that people can't turn or shouldn't turn left on Pipeline?
Yes, we'd be willing to do that, and I don't recall that exactly. I remember them asking about the drive-through.
No, they asked about the left turn.
And I'm probably mistaken, I don't recall that, but, yeah, we're willing to give the left turn.
Okay, and with the second thing, did you say that, I just want to make sure I heard this right, you would be willing to get rid of the drive-through on the corner?
Yes, we'd be willing to get rid of the drive-through. That's the only thing that requires a conditional use permit, was the drive-through. So at that time, and believe me, I still believe the drive-through is necessary for the feasibility of the project. But, if drive-through is the main issue, we can't get this project through, then let's look at ways to make, that we can agree to move forward.
Okay.
We're here to really, as a handout, try to get input from you as well.
All right, thank you for that. And I think the last question that I have for you is that one of the other issues that was brought up by Mr. Jeske, even though he wasn't at the planning commission meeting, but I think the Jolliker read his letter in. The question was that, if I read this correctly, you have 83 parking spaces?
81 parking spaces, I believe.
All right, so this is out of date?
Oh, I'm sorry, whatever it's there, it could be 83.
It says 83 parking spaces.
Sorry.
And how many businesses, including the restaurant, how many businesses are in there? How many spaces are there?
I believe, including the restaurant, I believe it's 18.
Okay. So you have that many spaces, and you have 83 parking spaces, and you have 2 or 3 employees working at each one of those businesses. And if it is a Starbucks, you have at least 6 to 8 employees all the time in a Starbucks. That leaves about maybe 45 spaces for, or even less than that, for customers. Does that mean where are the customers going to park? Where are the employees going to park? And I'm also interested in what your comments on the red curbs, so there's no parking on Pipeline. So I guess I'm just trying to figure out where everybody's going to park.
Okay. Well, first of all, the 2 to 3. There was a comment that there would be 2 to 3 people working at each one. These are mom and pops, so we
That's
don't.
2.
I'm sorry.
That's 2.
No, these are mom and pops, so there's some that may only have 1. And there's also, and the restaurant itself requires, I believe it's 1 for every 250. So, there's spaces for that restaurant for itself. So this is parked, the parking is all based upon an industry standards as far as, 4 per 1,000 parking spaces for commercial retail. So this is the standard that's been established based upon numerous studies as far as what's the correct number of parking that's required for any development. And all your city projects are all parked the same way. So this is no different than the Ramona in Philadelphia. This is no different than any other project you have in your city, because you're either parked 4 per 1,000 for commercial or 1 for 250 for restaurants in your city code.
All right, you used Ramona and Philadelphia. Ramona and Philadelphia are 2 major streets. Okay, it's not like a Pipeline and Chino. Okay, it's where there's one's a residential street and one's like a commercial street. So I'm having a hard time comparing the 2.
Well, I'm just talking about the parking ratios, though. So with respect to the parking ratios, every project is based upon square footage. It's not based upon number of businesses.
Okay. All right, then
And you asked about the red curb?
Yes.
I'm sorry, so what was the question, sir?
You said that that the county would work with you and the city was
No,
going to
no,
work with you on a red curb?
I believe Mr. Jensky, when I spoke to him, he wanted a red curb along his property in front of Angelicers as well. And we believe that that is a viable request or a valid request, and we'd be willing to work with the county to get that, you know, to try to make that happen.
Okay, and I really appreciate all your willingness to make all these changes. I agree with Mr. Elrod that it's a great project, maybe not in the right place, but I do think it needs, you know, a lot more work. And I do have one more question that I'd like to address to staff. A lot of questions that came up this evening were CEQA questions. And that this site is not a CEQA, I'm using the wrong term, CEQA eligible, but why is this not CEQA?
Yeah, we've heard that question before. The project is simply, we have regulations, you know, CEQA legislation that outlines what fits in the CEQA analysis, and this project happens to fit in one of the exemption categories. The category it fits in is under 5 acres, but I do want to point out that that does not mean standards don't apply. For example, they have to do a traffic impact analysis, drainage study, they have to do water quality management plan, they have to look at Vector, they have to do a soils report. So there's a number of things apply, including the standards of the city. So like noise standards we have currently in our code, they have to abide by those. We have lighting standards that they have to meet. So everything still gets analyzed. It's just that second level where the actual an environmental document is created for this type of project.
All right, thank you. That's all.
Tom?
Yes, thank you.
I'm
Thank
sorry
you,
to
Mayor.
interrupt, Madam Mayor. If there are not going to be further questions of the applicant, you may want to close the public hearing.
Are there going to be any further questions of the
Not
applicant?
for me, you might have something.
Okay.
Can I just share something? May I go?
If we have you come back, then we have to let everybody else come back, Irene.
Reopen the public.
Well, I did.
I have,
Is it okay?
I would suggest
Okay, go ahead,
offering
Irene.
a response comment.
So, I'm not here as a parent now. Irene Hernandez-Blair, member of the Chino Valley School Board. I didn't want to have to do this, but the developer indicated that our superintendent approved the project, so I immediately text him because that isn't protocol. So I asked him, Mr. Joseph, did you meet with the developer proposing to build across from Don Lugo, and did you support the project? Nope, that's not true. In 2016, the developer met with Mr. Stachura and I to inform us of his plans. We both just listened. Thank you.
Now, okay, we don't want to have a debate back and forth. Real quick, and then that's all.
I didn't say he approved it. He did indicate that they supported it, and I'm just telling you what they said. So that was at that meeting, and I'm just saying, I understand what their protocol is, but he didn't approve it. He said he supported it, and there was no letter of opposition from the
Okay, then it's a he said, she said.
He
We're not
said,
going
he
to
said.
discuss that anymore. Okay, Tom?
Okay.
Or I'll close the public hearing. Okay, Fred?
For questions of the applicant, that would be appropriate.
Do you have a question of the applicant?
Well, not of the applicant, I'd like
Okay,
to.
well, it's
Okay.
Tom's turn,
Okay,
and then
Tom.
I'll come back to you,
Okay.
okay? Tom?
Thank you, Mayor. Well, Irene, I didn't see your school board hat on, but that.
I didn't have it on.
Yeah, but that was good, that was good. Well, this is first of all, let me just thank everybody for coming out tonight. And you guys were very respectful, and, you know, we as Chino residents, we appreciate that. And I do know that almost everybody that spoke is from the county. And someday you are going to become Chino residents. I don't know, we don't know when it's going to happen, but someday you're going to have to come into the city. And I know because you tell everybody, you know, you don't tell people you're from the county. You tell people you're from Chino. And I understand that, and we appreciate that. And also, it was interesting to see the husband and wife teams come up and speak tonight. We usually don't get that. Usually there's only one member of a family that'll come up, that'll come up and speak to us, but to hear both of you. Although
Yeah, but they were very good because they had different viewpoints.
although I'm going to have to take a little something with the Jeskis. When Ken got up and spoke, I thought he was pretty much not that opposed to the project if some conditions were changed, but then his wife came up and said, no, we don't want the project at all. So there may be a problem later this evening, but I appreciate you guys coming up and speaking. And of course, this is basically in my backyard. I live a mile away from this whole project. I've driven Pipeline and Chino Avenues for almost 40 years, and I can tell you, I do miss the old days. I miss when we could walk and we could drive from the 71 all the way to probably Monte Vista and not even have a stop sign. We could go all those, and those days were great. But then 40 million people decided to move to California, and what are you going to do? There isn't one city in Southern or Northern California that doesn't have these issues, the traffic, the more people. It's just the way California is, and I think they're still coming. I don't think we're gonna have less people in California. It's just the way it is. And the city does try to do the best we can with traffic, because it's important. I can tell you that when you drive down Chino Avenue, when you're heading toward the 71, you're heading west, if you're going 40 or 45 miles an hour, there's a car on your bumper. That traffic goes at 50 miles an hour or faster. And I can tell you, turning in to this place, people are gonna, and that's gonna slow traffic down. That's gonna be an issue. I know we have other parts of the city but most of those, the traffic is 35, which means they go 40, but it's not quite as fast. Chino Avenue and there's no parking on Chino Avenue, it's really fast. Now, if you look at Pipeline coming south, and it's partially our fault for you people, is that we built the Spectrum. We're sorry, but it has improved the city tremendously. So traffic down Pipeline, even from 2015 to 2017, there's a tremendous amount of traffic coming down Pipeline. It's just that people use Pipeline to go to the Spectrum. So the question is there going to be a lot more traffic pulling into that center? I don't really know if there's going to be that much more traffic because of the center, because Pipeline is so heavily traveled. I could see somebody at Walmart buying something and then driving north of Pipeline going, oh, I forgot to get something to eat, and then there's a place they could pull in, or there's a Starbucks or one of these kind of things. But I kind of have to agree with the comments I've heard from the council. I don't think a fast food restaurant or any food in this particular center makes a lot of sense, because it is going to keep the hours going longer. I think maybe like a business park. I mean, you could have a hair salon, you could have a real estate office, you could have, like me, an insurance agent, you could have a CPA, you could have a business park of 18 businesses that really operate from 9 to 5 every day. There's nothing at night. From that type of thing, I could see a business park being a viable, whether it's not going to make as much money as restaurants and those kind of things, but that seems to make more sense to me. Even a real estate office could work there. Although there's usually a lot of agents in a real estate office, and they have usually a lot of cars at a real estate office. So I think. I again, like the rest of the council and the planning commission, I like the project. I don't think I have real issues with that left-hand turn out of there. I know how fast people go down Pipeline, especially when you're going down Pipeline and you hit Chino Avenue. If that light's turning yellow, you're not slowing down. You're speeding up to get through that light because you don't want to stop there, because you got 2 more lights before you hit the Spectrum. So I think that there's a real issue with that left-hand turn. And just kind of to tell you, if you're on Roswell at McDonald's, and you pull out of there and try to go left, and now you got to drive through the Kaiser parking lot, and you turning left, you got to look both ways, and that street's a lot slower than Pipeline, and you really have trouble. I have trouble because I go to the McDonald's all the time there. So that's part of the problem. So and he's a Starbucks guy. So so I think the business park to me would make more sense, and I would probably. I could have the city attorney mention if we were to deny this without prejudice. Would you mind explaining that, what that means, if we were going to do that?
Certainly, and I also wanted to make some procedural comments about options the council has. So one of them that I was going to mention is you have a municipal code section 20.23.030 that states that once an application is finally denied, the applicant cannot return and refile the same or a substantially similar application for at least 1 year. So the issue before the council would be if there are suggested modifications, whether a waiver of that provision so that the it's denial without prejudice to reapply would be appropriate per the council's direction. The other issue is I'm hearing some suggestions about modification. So what the council has as its options this evening are you could approve as proposed, you can deny, and we really don't have a resolution of denial that incorporates all the findings from the testimony that you've heard today. So really the suggestion would be to direct staff to return at your next meeting with a proposed resolution of denial for your consideration. That would be the appropriate way to address that. And then the third option is to approve a modified application. And with that, if it would be just to remove the drive-through, it's pretty substantial modification because you wouldn't need the special conditional use permit. That's really what that particular approval is for, just the drive-through component. You would just need the what you call the site approval. So that modification, if the council's interested, I could go further into that as far as what is recommended. You could ask the applicant to simply modify it, and staff would come back with a revised resolution that only looks at that site approval with the plans that you could look at, or you could simply deny it all and without prejudice, and the applicant would have to go back to the Planning Commission and propose it at that level. So
Fred,
those are really.
we've come so far, and I asked Tom if I could interrupt and ask you something else. Instead of denying, can the council just give direction to staff to take all of these comments back and continue working with the applicant and the residents for resolution?
Yes, so that's part of the modification suggestion that I
But
made.
not with the instruction to come back at the very next council meeting, because I think this is going to take a bit longer. Plus, I have some concerns with other issues I'd like to bring up. So I think it's not just the left-hand turn lane. I think there are some other issues that need to be considered. But I would hate to just flat out deny. If it looks like there's movement and some kind of compromise in the works where the residents could be satisfied as well as the council's concerns, to just deny and turn it back just doesn't feel right.
So, and I would suggest you ask the applicant if the applicant would consent to this, but if that was the council's desire, I would ask the applicant if, because it will take some time, as Mayor, as you mentioned, you would direct staff to bring back a resolution of a modified approval to address some of the concerns that were raised this evening. And the hopes is that resolution can come back to you with some of the details and incorporate your suggestions within a relatively short period of time. But because that is kind of the step that will take some time, I would just suggest that the applicant state whether he consents to that.
Do you have to reopen the public hearing?
Yes, just for that one
Reopen the public hearing. Mr.
confirmation,
Chino.
if that's the desire of the council.
So I'm hearing everything. Can I get just clarification as far as, exactly what you're asking for?
Well, you've heard the council comments so far. I haven't made mine yet, but you've
Yes.
heard concerns about the left-hand turn, the drive-through, restaurants, operational hours, traffic especially
Okay.
is of concern.
Yeah, and with respect to everything we heard so far, we consent to that. The business operations right now, it's 10 p.m. for all businesses. Well, we don't think that is an issue as far as shortening that. I don't know if there's any other You mentioned you had a couple others that you wanted to also consider.
Well, I'm wondering, as Fred was saying, if we flat deny it, then you have to start apparently almost all over again and can't come back for another year.
Correct.
I know the residents have put a lot of time and effort into this, done a lot of research, and of course it impacts their neighborhood and they care very, very deeply. You've invested a lot of money. This is not a cheap project, and obviously you want to make it viable. You bought the land as general commercial. I mean,
Okay.
you're an honest businessman when it comes, you made an investment based on what the zoning was.
Sure. So this is the way, I think the answer is yes. The way I understand it is that there's no left turn lane, no drive-through, no restaurants. With that, too, I believe is elimination of the 200 square foot outdoor eating area as well.
Well, I imagine there's a lot of related issues that come up. But like I said, also, I have some separate concerns. Right now, I just want to know, are you amenable to working with staff on
Oh,
this?
absolutely. Absolutely, we're amenable.
Okay, Fred?
And again, if you deny it with prejudice, or without prejudice, I'm sorry, then he could bring it back sooner than a year. He doesn't have to wait for a year to submit it.
Okay, so a denial without prejudice means it's still open for working.
Just to clarify, it's a denial with a waiver of this one-year provision.
Okay. All right, now I'll
Or-
close the public hearing again.
Right. So just for clarification, it would still start over, except that the applicant could come back right away without having to wait for the year. That's
Okay.
the clarification.
Tom, you want to finish your
So-
comments? I'm sorry, I just need to clarify.
No, I think we've heard the public loud and clear, and I think the council's got pretty good direction on where they want to go with the situation. I think, I think obviously people would like to get rid of the gophers on the property, and I think that, we've driven by that lot for how many years? Since I remember the house on there. God, it's got to have been 25 years ago. There used to be a house on that corner, and I can't believe it's almost 2 acres. I would have guessed that if it was 3/4 to an acre. I don't realize how deep that property is. When you drive by it, you just don't see that. But I think, and again, I just want to thank everybody for coming out tonight.
Okay, Paul, you had an additional.
Yes, additional comment. First of all, I didn't know gophers made a lot of noise. But I like to say that in my past career as a former high school principal for traditional and for continuation high school, this project could possibly affect not only Don Lugo, but also Buena Vista Continuation High School. That's a big consideration, I think, that should be taken into consideration. Attendance is very important, and loitering could be a problem that would affect not only the school district, its security, but also maybe even possibly the Chino PD, and also any other services that we have, which would be first responders that would have to go out there. And it's important that, or even sheriffs that would be out there, any type of law enforcement that may need to be going out there to investigate loitering, crimes, and so forth. So as one of our missions for the city of Chino is to provide a safe, healthy, and environment conducive for living. And in saying that, besides businesses and realtors and insurance, what about homes? That was not mentioned. So I don't know how that works. I may be wrong.
It would be a Measure M.
Yeah.
So, with that said, I believe that I would like it to go back to the staff to review, and I agree with Eunice that, and perhaps other council members, that we need to have time to have the staff to review it, and time meaning in a timely manner, maybe a SWOT analysis. Maybe that's too big of a word for some people, but we can do that, the staff, and then come back with consideration of what our strategic plan is for the city, and then move forward.
Okay, Earl?
I have a quick question of the chief. Chief, can we address the problems of the speeding and the traffic and truck routes? Is there some way we can enforce some of that? I know it's weird where the boundaries are county and city, but we should, if they go past Chino Avenue, we should be able to do something about it.
Well, I had planned, thank you, Councilman Elward, I had planned to speak to Mr. and Mrs. Joliker, if I pronounced that correctly this evening. As you know, the east side of Pipeline Avenue between Chino Avenue and Riverside Drive was annexed into the city over the weekend. And that will allow for the city of Chino to conduct, per our ordinance, truck route violations for obviously the northbound side of Pipeline Avenue. The ordinance will not cover the southbound side of Pipeline Avenue, but certainly if we're in the area conducting enforcement, which we plan to, we can pick up those offenders if they do enter into other parts of the city. If you'd like additional comments that were made at the Planning Commission, I do have Lieutenant Minson present here, who was there at the Planning Commission meeting during the review of this, for a review of that. But, with the exception, there are some trucks that do travel in those areas, as throughout the rest of the city, even onto Central Avenue. If they have proper paperwork, they, can be permitted to travel into areas, even when it does appear that they're off a truck route, when they're making a proper delivery, a lawful delivery. So we'll be happy to conduct additional enforcement. The city manager has already asked for my staff as well as others to reach out into that newly annexed area, welcome them to the city, and present to them the benefits of being now falling under the umbrella of the services of the Chino Police Department.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Karen.
You're welcome. Thank you.
I have one last additional, not for you, Karen.
Oh, thank you.
You can sit down. I guess I can say that to her. Please.
Yeah, I'd say.
But anyway.
He's got a gun.
I know, I got to watch that gun. But anyway, and the handcuffs. But anyway. I'd like to thank the developer for what they presented, and also for all the speakers for being courteous to each other, but also to the council, without any recall threats or anything like this. It was very nice. Nicely done. Thank you.
Mayor, I also wanted to clarify one thing about that Measure M. If it was residential, it was annexed in 1993, which was prior to 1988.
So the residents wouldn't get to vote on it?
Correct.
Okay. All right. I'm not going to repeat any of the comments that were already made by the other council members, because I think we've beat it to death. But I do have some additional concerns, mainly because of circumstances where we live, and that is there was mentioned concerns about the drainage with the block wall on the north side. Well, where I live, I have a similar situation, and that is we have a block wall on our south side, and we live right next door to a preschool and a church. And when the block wall was built, they built in weep holes that are supposed to let the drainage, which historically goes south. Well, after a while, the dirt fills in those weep holes, and so now we flood. And I have to cut a trench all the way through to the front to drain out to the street. So a solid block wall on a south side that has historical drainage going south is a problem. And I don't know how you address that, Warren, but that is something, okay.
I had a similar problem on Central Avenue, because natural flow, you have to take care of it.
Turn on your mic.
Natural flow.
You have to accept it, yeah.
Yeah, so
Right.
they even did more than that. They probably made a 6-inch gap at the bottom of the wall, and then they cemented it into their property. So it just runs through, there's no buildup, no backup.
Okay, well, and we do have to address that, because it can be a serious problem. I mean, last winter, we had a lake in part of our backyard because there was just nowhere for the water to go. So I have concerns about the drainage. I think we've covered just about everything else. Oh, the 8-foot-high block wall. How high is the block wall between the Avocado House and the development on Central?
It's a different elevation, I think.
From the Avocado side, how high is that block wall?
I recall it being almost 12 feet in the highest location. I think we measured it and somebody said it was 12, but I believe it's just below, it's right in there.
Okay, so this isn't going to look like
No, ma'am.
that.
We've learned our lesson. Yes,
Oh,
ma'am.
excellent. Okay. And the lighting, like I mentioned, we live next to a church and a preschool, and those buildings are lit at nighttime, and we do get quite a bit of glare. But 2 doors up from us, our neighbor has a tennis court with huge lights, but they engineered them such that the light comes straight down. So even though we can see the lights, they don't glare onto our property like the church and the preschool does. So there are requirements on lighting that can help tremendously with the glare from buildings. So I'm going to assume that our staff is going to be very, very diligent about that as this
Yes, ma'am.
project
Yes, ma'am.
proceeds. And I think all the rest of it, we've already addressed. Parking, I have also the same kind of concerns about the parking. I know that we have standards, but many times our standards just don't seem to be adequate. And when you look at 18 businesses, like you said, and you have 1 or 2 cars for employees with 18 businesses, that's a lot of cars. And most of the time, employees are pretty lazy, just like all of us, and want to get the front parking spaces. And so they crowd around the buildings, and then the customers have to park toward the back, which isn't always wise either. So anyway, I agree. I think the project is, all in all, a good project. It's just, I think, looking back at 2010, what we had envisioned at that time was that it would be a church or something that was smaller, with less impact. You know, we try to make the best decisions that we can. We don't have crystal balls. We can't look into the future and see how everything's going. But I think now, looking back, I don't think we should have done it general commercial. But it is what it is, and the developer bought it out of good faith, and we have to honor that. So if we can work together with staff, the developer, the residents can work together to get a resolution where something can come out of this that's amenable. It isn't going to be 100% for everybody. We know that. But there are concerns, and I think the concerns are very valid. But in all fairness, it is general commercial. And so we need to abide by our general plan as well. Tom?
Are you finished?
Yeah.
So I guess, would it be appropriate to make a motion? Can I make a motion at this point?
Yes, and I'm happy to clarify. I was laying out the 3 options, the motion to request a resolution of denial, modification, and approval. From what I'm hearing, suggested modification to remove the elements that were addressed, the drive-through, turn lane.
No left turn.
Basically,
4-foot
option
lanes.
2.
Oh,
So that could just be a suggestion that staff return with a modified resolution that eliminates those elements that were considered a problem. I heard the applicant consent to, because the timing, because it could be a few meetings, but between now and the time you see the modified application. So it would be a motion to modify to address those issues.
Well, I was thinking of making a motion to deny without prejudice, that the planning commission could look at this again and take a look at it with modifications, and then bring it back to the city council.
Okay.
So and I think I think they said that they would accept a denial without prejudice. And I thought I heard that, so.
Okay, and certainly that's one of the options. I would just suggest, rather than a motion to deny, it'd be a motion to bring back a resolution of denial for your consideration, which would incorporate all those findings. Because we don't have a resolution before us today that has all of that information.
So are you saying I can't make that?
So
Yes, it would be a motion to direct staff to bring back a
Okay.
resolution
All
of
right.
denial
So we're not,
without prejudice.
okay, what he said.
Okay, there's a motion from Mayor Pro Tem Howie. And a second by Councilman George. All those in favor, vote, or, I'm sorry, all those vote. It's a long meeting. come on. Okay, the council unanimously supports this item being denied without prejudice.
To bring back a resolution of
Bring
denial.
back a
Just
resolution.
For everybody's clarification, it would come back to your next council meeting. It would be a consent item. There's no further testimony. You've closed the public hearing. It's only deliberations on whether that resolution of denial adequately outlines all of the issues that were raised tonight.
Okay, I would request that it not be a consent item.
That-
I believe that it should be an item in case we do need some kind of public input.
That is perfectly appropriate.
Does it have to be next meeting?
Exactly.
Because we've got Thanksgiving, I mean, there's a lot going
Oh, we
on.
have Francis.
It does not have to be the next meeting.
Okay,
About next year.
well, you know, staff's got a lot on their plate.
I'm just.
Okay, so the item passed unanimously. Thank you all very, very much for being here this evening. Thank you, Chief Justice. Okay, next item on the agenda is item number 12, under new business, reauthorize the city's right to continue to collect public educational or governmental access channel fees under state law. Our staff report this evening will be by our attorney, Mr. Galante.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the council. The, what you have before you
Excuse me,
is-
Fred. I would ask that any chit-chat, please, if you could take it outside, as Mr. George just said. Okay, sorry, Fred, continue.
No problem. Thank you, Madam Mayor. What you have before you is consideration of two proposed ordinances, and I'll explain why there are two ordinances that essentially do the same thing. On December 29, 2006, the state passed legislation that is known as the Digital Infrastructure and Video Competition Act of 2006, referred to as DIVCA. It essentially eliminated the local agency's ability to negotiate cable franchises, as used to be the case. Each jurisdiction, as some of you may recall, could negotiate a franchise fee of certain amounts, and the best you could do, you could try to secure from a cable provider. Well, that has changed, and now the state issues those franchises, and with that, it imposed significant limitations on cities' ability to negotiate both the franchise fees as well as these public access channel fees, what are called PEG fees. With that, the maximum that can be approved is a 5% franchise fee and a 1% PEG fee. The city has approved some of these ordinances adopting franchises, and one of them for Spectrum, formerly known as Charter/Time Warner Cable, is set to expire January 2nd of 2018. So because the expiration of that could cause a loss of those PEG revenues, the suggestion is that you adopt a new ordinance to reinstate that approval. And generally, an ordinance has to go through a first reading and a second reading, and it's effective 30 days after. So it would go past the window of that expired period. So before you have an urgency ordinance that would take effect immediately, and that requires at least a 4/5 vote, and also a regular ordinance. So by the time the urgency ordinance automatically expires after 45 days, you will have effective an ordinance that will take its place. And with that, you wouldn't lose any revenue from the PEG fees that I know the city relies on in creating these public access programs, rather.
Okay,
With that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
excellent report, thank you. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to address the council on this item? Okay, then a motion would be appropriate.
And if I may read the titles of the ordinance before the
Oh,
roll call?
yes.
Yeah.
Well, you say, I'm supposed to ask for a motion and then you read it, right?
Right.
Okay, so I have a motion from Councilman George, second from Councilman Elrod. Mr. Galante, would you please read
Thank
the
you,
ordinance?
Madam Mayor. Sorry to have interrupted you. The first ordinance is an urgency ordinance, number 2017-013, an urgency ordinance of the City Council of the City of Chino, California, reauthorizing the public educational or governmental access channel fee. And ordinance number 2017-014 is only the introduction of, you'll see the second reading, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Chino, California, reauthorizing the public educational or government access channel fee. Reading by title only and waiving further reading. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Rodriguez, would you please vote? Okay, again, there was a motion from Councilman George, second from Councilman Elrod, and the item does pass 5-0 unanimously. Okay, next we have mayor and council reports. As we enter the month of December, I wanted to give everyone a couple of reminders pertaining to some of our outstanding Christmas events. First, let the YMCA in the city of Chino's Healthy Chino help you meet your fitness goals by attending the Reindeer Romp event on Saturday, December 2nd at 5665 Edison Avenue. This is one of our most anticipated community run-walk events and will give everyone a chance to participate no matter your level of ability. So make sure you don't miss out on the Kids Fun Run happening at 8 o'clock or the 5K, 10K run or walk scheduled for 8:15. For more information, please call the Chino Valley YMCA at 909-597-7445. Second, make sure you come out just before our December 5th council meeting at 5:30 p.m. to join us as we flip the switch at our annual tree lighting ceremony right here at City Hall. As in years past, light refreshments will be provided while families can enjoy Christmas classics performed by the Chino Community Chorus and even take pictures with Santa, who will be escorted by our very own Chino Police Department and Chino Valley Independent Fire District. For more information about that event, please call 909-334-3301. Also, make sure you mark your calendars for our annual Chino Youth Christmas Parade and Fair on Saturday, December 9th. The parade starts at 9 o'clock on the corner of Riverside Drive and Monte Vista Avenue, heads east on Riverside Drive, south on Central Avenue, and ends at Chino Avenue. The fair runs from 9 to 2 in the Senior Center and Library parking lots, with the carnival happening at the Civic Center from 9 to 2 also. We will have Santa's Village at the Chino Youth Museum from 9 to 2 as well. And for more information, please call 909-334-3258. And lastly, on behalf of the City Council, I'd like to wish everyone a fun and safe and happy Thanksgiving, and to please note that City Hall will be closed this upcoming Thursday and Friday in observance of Thanksgiving holiday. City Hall will reopen on Monday, November 27th at its regular operating hours at 7:30 to 5:30. And as for things that I went to, I will go through this very, very quickly. November 8th was the Youth Sports President's Dinner that several of us attended. On the 9th, I attended the appropriative pool at Watermaster. On the 14th, the Chino Valley Unified School District State of the District. On the 15th, the prayer breakfast. On the 16th, Watermaster Advisory and Board of Directors. On the 17th, the Senior Citizen Center for their birthday celebration. And then yesterday, I attended a very special event and was quite floored, actually. It was Chick-fil-A's award to the Let It Be Foundation. I was amazed. I've witnessed a lot of grants and special presentations to nonprofit organizations, but this one was the biggest that Chick-fil-A gives out, and they award 22 awards per year. $100,000.
Wow. Oh, wow.
For their activity with youth and leadership, and I was floored. I was so impressed that I've asked our city staff to please contact the Let It Be Foundation, Ruth and Michael Rosen, David
Dinasan, I think that's how you pronounce his last name, who's the owner-operator of the Chick-fil-A in Chino Hills, and Chris Hughes from Boys Republic, who was the one that actually nominated the Let It Be Foundation for the award. I've asked our staff to contact them and bring them to either our next council meeting or as soon as possible and have that award presented here publicly. It was just amazing, and what they've done with kids is really touching. I have never seen a grant that big ever. I was just floored. And the 22 awards that Chick-fil-A does is across the United States.
That's something.
So that's pretty cool. Last year, they awarded award to Boys Republic for their work with youth, and then this year to Chick-fil-A. And David told me that they are going to open a Chick-fil-A in Chino in the near future. So I'm really looking forward to that also.
Not on this corner.
No, not on this
Yeah,
corner.
no, not on Pipeline and Chino Avenue.
And I'd also like to wish belated happy birthdays to Rita Pro and Monica Gutierrez from the admin area. Mayor Pro Tem Howie.
Thank you, Mayor, and I'll make mine quick as the evening is drawing on here. On the 8th, I attended a fire board meeting, and a couple of our firefighters received quite an award, the Medal of Valor, for their efforts at the Las Vegas shooting. They were there, and they were in the line of fire, and they helped a number of people, and they received the Fire District's Medal of Valor, and it's only been given out, I think, once in the last 25 years. So that was a special meeting. Attended the youth sports dinner for a little while that night, and then attended the San Bernardino County Transit Authority study meeting on the 9th, the school district state, which you've mentioned already, WFA and CDA, both those water board meetings on the 16th, and then yesterday we had a council committee on investments. We had a meeting yesterday, and that concludes it. But wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving. Thank you.
Councilman Elrod.
Yes, Madam Mayor. You and I also had an infrastructure meeting
Oh, yeah, I
that we, hold on to your
Not
seats.
that there's a whole lot.
There's only $48 million worth of little things we have to do.
Is that all?
Oh, my
That's all,
gosh.
you know, and of course, we have that kind of money just laying around, so we don't have to worry about any of it, but that was an eye-opener yesterday, so. I'd like to thank everybody for attending tonight also, and I'd like to wish everybody a very, very good Thanksgiving. It's that time of the year to be with family, and I hope everybody can enjoy that. That concludes my report.
Councilman George, you also have item number 13.
Thank you, Mayor. From the Community Support Fund, I would like the council approval on donating $500 to the Corn Feed Run, because we all know what, the Kiwanis Club, what that, does for the city. So I would appreciate support on that funding.
Okay, there's a motion from Mayor Pro Tem Howie, second from myself. Please vote. And the item passes 5-0.
Thank you. On 11/8, attended the Youth Sports President's Dinner. On the 9th, attended a SCAG conference in Los Angeles. Took the train in. That's always fun. Took the train back, too, by the way. And later that evening, attended the League of California Cities Executive Board meeting up in Rancho Cucamonga. It was a long day. On the 11th, you remember the Cub Scout that came and asked about these socks for the homeless vets at Taco Dudes. My grandchildren and I delivered a few socks to Taco Dudes for that, and because they do the Cub Scouts do a great job with them, and Taco Dudes does also. I'll wait for you.
Sorry?
On the 13th, the Planning Commission meeting. On the 14th, the Chino Valley Unified School District State of the District, which was an excellent show. On the 15th, Federal Lobbyist meeting. On the 18th, emceed the Inland Valley News African American Celebration of Excellence Gala. On the 19th, on the 19th, with the Inland Valley Vietnamese community, their annual Feed the Homeless luncheon, turkey luncheon, worked there. On the 20th, Chino Investment Committee meeting and the Chino Valley Chamber of Commerce meeting. And on the 21st with Tom, because I think you stopped by also, Senator Connie Leva's. Yeah, her turkey giveaway along with Stater Brothers, well attended, and just to thank her for, for bringing that to Chino, and happy Thanksgiving to you all.
Councilman Rodriguez.
Thank you for this opportunity to present tonight. On November 13th, I attended the Chino Cultural Foundation meeting, and I'd like to announce that there will be a dinner, holiday dinner, and a show on December 10th at 5:30. The dinner will be at the Chino Center, Senior Center. Following that, there will be the play, A Christmas Story. Let's see, on November 14th, I attended the Chino Valley address about the district. The main focus, I believe, was, and what I understood was how well the district is providing the services not only for students but also including parents into the mix of this, which really follows with the state guidelines for the LCAP, the Local Control and Accountability Plan. It was well attended, and the address by Silvio Orozco was very well done. On Sunday, November 19th, I attended the Chino Boxing Club tournament. The main focus was, of course, the boxers, who are very talented. Some of these young women are even more vicious than the boys. But anyway, turkeys were given to the boxers as well as some needy families. Lastly, I'm still concerned about all the noise the Gophers are doing at this planned or supposedly planned development here on Pipeline and Chino Avenue. But there again, myself in District 1, I have an avocado tree, Haas, in fact, loaded. So I'm having problems with possums. So being the district person and member in District 1, I guess I'm the only person I can complain to. So I look in the mirror. Anyway, lastly, as a council member and lifelong resident and generational resident of the city of Chino, I want to wish all of you a very, very happy Thanksgiving to all your families and your friends and everyone else that lives in Chino. Thank you. That concludes my report.
Matt, any report this evening?
I do want to mention one thing. Many of you know Kurt Powell. He's our public works manager. He's announced his retirement. He'll be retiring effective December 4th, which is before our next council meeting. He's a very humble man, but if you see him, please share our gratitude for his service to our community.
Is there any way we can cancel that? I don't think it's
Actually,
fair.
we have for 3 years. I mean, we've been fighting with him to stay on board. But anyway, I just want to go on record that the city appreciates his 17 years of service to our community.
We're going to miss him. He is great. Fred, anything this evening?
None, Mayor. Happy Thanksgiving to all.
I have a question for you. What's this?
So I
lost a bet.
I lost a bet. I do the Movember no shave and I donate to men's cancer awareness causes. I have a friend that went through kind of a big cancer scare, and he convinced most of us to keep doing this, and it's just been a habit every year. Sorry, I have to do this to you every November.
No, it's okay. It's all
You get a
right.
discount in pay, see, when he does that.
Oh, you discount your rates? Oh, all right. I think you should keep this. Keep it going.
You didn't read the contract.
Oh, facial hair gets discount. Karen, anything this evening?
No report, Mayor. Happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you. Anything this evening?
Fire District, happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you very much. Okay, with that, we will adjourn the meeting to our next regular meeting, which will be December 5th at 7 o'clock. Unless we need closed session, that'll be at 6:30.